What's up, guys? Welcome back to another tutorial. This is part 2 of prepping a photo for engraving. Now what I'm going to try to do on this one is focus on really making the features of the face stand out so that when it does engrave, there's no guessing of who that is and what some of the facial features are supposed to be. Right now you can tell that it's super washed out. And you are not going to get a good engrave from this regardless of the software you use. It's just difficult just because it is, it's not a great quality photo and it's missing a lot of detail. So the first thing I want to do is go up to my image and make a couple of quick adjustments. Even though we covered this in photo engraving 1, part 1, I just want to do a quick refresher. I'm not going to take much time explaining, but really I just want to bring some of the facial features out, get more contrast in, cheek lines, cheekbones, the line of his neck. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring out some of these features so that there's a definite contrast between these features of his face for when the laser's trying to process the photo. And there's typically 3 things that I mess around with, and that's going to be the brightness contrast adjustment up here, the exposure, and then shadows, highlights. And I'm literally just trying to get some of these features to stand out. Okay, so now that I have that, I normally will go into Sharpen, and I do an Unmask Sharpen, and I have to be real careful with this because I can, once again, blow everything out, but I do want some of these highlights. Like you can see, parts of his ears now are starting to get lighter. His nose, some stuff around his mustache is getting a little lighter, and the top of his shirt. And of course, just like I said before, run these all over the place to see what they do. See how far you can push it before you start losing some of that detail. Now, as you can tell, he's really blotchy all over. It's just a poor image. It's probably a screen capture of a photo, a handheld photo, printed photo. I don't think it was scanned in. Somebody probably took a picture with their iPhone. So we're not working with good quality to begin with. So I've done my filter and my sharpen, my unsharp mask. I'm going to do a smart sharpen to try to bring some of the edge details. And if you look at the mustache, we started getting little white lines coming through, and that's what we want. We want to pronounce some of these things so that they are engraved, and we only engrave in a grayscale. So the only thing that it really sees are from light to dark. So there's no color. So we have to make sure that there is good representation of light to dark. All right, so now I have a nice lip line over there, a little bridge under his nose, and I have pretty good lines. So I'm going to leave it like that. And this is where things start to change from the first video. I'm going to go into Filter, and I'm going to go into Stylize. Now in Stylize, there's oil paints. Now if we get too crazy with it, it's going to look really weird, and yeah, we can really lose sight of what we're trying to do. But I'm probably going to use this a couple times just to bring out the attributes that I do want. Now, looking at it, I can see that his eyes are losing some of the color, and they're not really pronounced. So I'm going to real quick go in here and fix that. I'm going to use my brush tool. I'm going to right click on it. I just want a normal brush. And then up here in mode, you can darken, lighten. Um, there's so many different things that you can do. I just want to lighten some of the whites of his eyes. It is going to use the palette, so we can just go over this. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're zoomed in, and it's going to be really hard to tell what we've done. One, we're not recreating the detail. If we were printing this, then I would say, yeah, it needs to be perfect. But we're not. We're engraving it. There's only so much detail that we can reproduce. So really my main goal is to get some of that contrast of his eyes. The whites of the eyes are important. One of the more important features to engrave. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, right-click on my brush. I'm going to go to my mixer brush. And basically what the mixer brush is going to do is drag whatever you click on, it's going to drag it. So I am going to drag some of these lines to flatten them out so it's not so pixelated. But I'm also going to create a more defined line on facial features. So I can see the line of his chin, it just fades away too fast. So what I want to do is make sure that I have those lines there and there's a definite fall off from dark to white. So as you can see, now there's a chin. And I'm going to do that with a lot of the facial features, just accentuate them, just really make sure they stand out and pop. I'm not trying to do plastic surgery here, but I am trying to make sure that the laser is going to be able to pick up some of these things. Now over here we have a lot of coloration here. I typically will drag out my lighter colors. This way there's a definite variation for the hairline. And again, I'm making it smooth. I don't want it washed out like what we started with, but I do want nice, smooth, flowing. I don't want to see all of these types of lines here in my engraving. So I'm just kind of going to lightly go over it. And whatever you click on and grab is what you're going to be basically smudging. It's like a smudge tool. So if you want to bring the darker parts over here up, you can. If you want to bring the lighter parts down and just fade it in. Let's shrink this down a little bit. So he definitely has, a slight bag under his eye there. Another one over here. And get a little bit of contrast of his eyebrows. And like I said, by no means are we trying to make this look perfect. We are just adding a little bit of an accent to the things that already exist. A little bit larger. I still want to flatten out some of this stuff. And once you start doing this, it doesn't take that long. Here we are on from the beginning of the video on about 9 minutes in, and I'm really close to being done. Shrink this down again. And like I said, you're not doing surgery here. You're not trying to change the way he looks. It is quite literally just amplifying stuff that is already there. I really don't like some of this, so I will try to fix and straighten it out a little bit. Okay. All right. So I think we have definite lines, of the nose. Can bring this out, this around. I definitely want to lighten this a little bit, just to have a little bit of variation so his nose shows up a little bit better. Again, it's all about the contrast and being able to catch those details with the laser. Okay, so once we're done with that, we can always go back and do the filter again, and we can do another Unmask Sharpen and really see what we get, see if it makes it any better. Again, I don't want these hot spots. That will tend to make you try to compensate for stuff that is overburning or underburning, depending on if it's a negative or just a regular engrave. I will try to sharpen it a little bit more. The amount is a little high. So as we zoom out, I'm really looking at the overall quality of how it's going to engrave and how it's going to look. I'm not really that happy with his eye, and I don't know how different it was in the original. So we can do edit. Let's revert it back. Yeah, I mean, compared to what we were working with, it's much better, and it's going to engrave, but I also want to make sure that I'm kind of being true to. I like over here how his eye, you can tell that he had blue eyes. So I'll try to make that exist on this side too. All right. So for the most part, I do think that we have covered and made this photo that was really, really bad and going to engrave horribly because it was so washed out. Let me see if I can go back real quick. It was so washed out that it would be very difficult to get anything done. You would seriously be trying to fight with your settings and maybe your settings in light burn for brightness and contrast and gamma. You'd be fighting yourself trying to get this to engrave because you're not getting any of the facial features because it was just so washed out. You might end up with a mustache and that's about it. It was definitely a difficult photo to do. You can use the revert button, and then once you've reverted it, use the back and forward button to just see the differences in the one that you've just created and the original, and make sure that it is, true to form. You could create a whole other layer. There's a lot of videos out there that show you how to create layer upon layer upon layer and fade them and have the opacity come into play. I just want it done. I am trying to do it the quickest possible to get the best result, and this works for me. I've done a lot of photos that are really just horrible, and they come out great. So do what works for you. This is just something that we use and how we do it. The other thing that I see with this photo that I would love to fix is obviously it's cut off on the top. And you can see that the original photo, the canvas size is a little too small. So what I'm going to do is image, canvas size. I'm going to change the height. Let's change the height to about 9.5. Okay, so now I have a little bit more room to play with, and I can give him some hair back. And again, I'm just going to use the mixer brush, and I'm just going to drag this around and basically fill his hair back in. You know, nothing crazy, and just so it doesn't engrave and look like it was chopped off. And that's it. The final thing that you have to do, like I mentioned in my other videos, is export as a PNG. And I'm going to show you real quick how to do this, but prior to doing that, I want to give Lightburn the most amount of information to process the photo as I can. So again, I'm going to go into image, and now I'm going to mess around with the image size. And on mine, it's set to import at 72 pixels per inch. The thing about that is, depending on your system, your computer, the higher resolution you're working with from the beginning, the more system resources you're going to use. So I keep it kind of low until I'm done. And then this is where I up it, and I'd probably up this to 400 pixels per inch, and I would export it, giving Lightburn so much more information to create its dither pattern or halftone pattern or Jarvis, whatever. It's going to automatically resample. I don't have to, like with Photograph and some other programs, you have to worry about matching DPIs. You don't have to worry about that here. You know, Lightburn is absolutely phenomenal and does the job for you. So I'm happy with that. I think that's going to engrave 100% better than the original, which was this, or back. You know, the definition and the lines are so much better. Image, we will export. I do quick export as PNG and just save it. Now, last time I didn't show examples of what it looked like when it was done. So here we have the original photo, no background removed. You can still see, I guess there's a lady off to the back here. You can still see her outline here. You can tell that the laser's trying to engrave the tones. And, you know, if this was a more involved background, you would start seeing that, and then you would lose a lot of what you're trying to accomplish with the face. This one is background removed and only edits in Lightburn. So I adjusted some contrast, gamma, and that was it. Now this was one of the ones that I did, and this was about 600 DPI running Jarvis, and I had a few more adjustments to make because I wasn't happy. This is on granite, by the way. Yeah, granite is difficult regardless. For those of you that do that and know it, there is a very fine line of getting this correct. And here's the last one. This is a halftone on granite with, I want to say that I was 850 DPI using the Beam Buddy. So you can see that I got a lot more detail. I think it came out really good. On wood, this would be a different story. It would be even better. But that's how I take some of these photos that that come to me and have no chance of being engraved, and I make them work. By all means, I'm not perfect at it. This is something that I had just started doing maybe 2 years ago, and slowly refining my method of doing it. But it's quick and easy. Within 10 minutes, you can have a photo background removed, um, edits done, and then adjusted for engraving. So I hope this helps some of you out that are having a hard time, because uh, photos are difficult and there is no one-click solution. All photos are different. So this is an aspect that it only benefits you to learn how to do this on your own. And you can take any of these things that I just showed you and apply them to Corel or Affinity or any of those photo programs that you're using. All right, guys, if you have any questions, um, feel free to put them in the comments below, and let me know what you'd like to see next. And of course, make sure you subscribe.